Hello everybody, so myself Dr. Sneha Bhatia. I will be talking about lumbar spine palpation in today's video. So before I start with my lecture, I would like to request my audience to please subscribe to this channel and to share this channel with your friends and to press the bell icon to get notified for the next video. According to YouTube analytics, my 64% of the audience have yet not subscribed to my channel, so I would like to request them to please subscribe to this channel. So for palpation of the lumbar spine, while we are palpating the lumbar spine, we have to check for the tenderness, any altered temperature, muscle spasm is present or not, and any other signs and symptoms that may indicate any source of pathology that should be noted. If the problem is suspected to be in the lumbar spine area, then palpation should be carried out in a systematic fashion, starting on the anterior aspect and working around to the posterior aspect. So while we are palpating the lumbar spine in the anterior aspect, so with the patient in the supine position, we have to palpate. So what are the structures that we will be palpating? So we have to first palpate the umbilicus. So the umbilicus lies at the level of the L3, L4 level of the disc space, and it is the point of intersection of the abdominal quadrants. It is also the point at which the aorta divides into the common iliac arteries. So anteriorly we can palpate for the umbilicus. So next, this is the picture showing the bony landmarks on the anterior aspect for the lumbar spine. So what we can see here is superior aspect, we have the T12 vertebra, then we have the 12th rib, then we have the L2 intervertebral disc and the L3 vertebrae. Then we have the level of the L4 and the L5 interface. As I have told you already in this slide that the umbilicus lies at the level of the L3, L4 level disc space. So this is the picture again showing the level of the L4, L5 interspace. So iliac crest we can palpate anteriorly. Then anterior superior iliac spine and anterior inferior iliac spine also can be palpated. Acetabulum, part of acetabulum can be palpated, and greater trochanter. Okay, so examiner may be also able to palpate the anterior aspect of the L4, L5 and the S1 vertebrae along with the disc and the anterior longitudinal ligament with careful deep palpation. Now next, so L4, L5, S1 vertebrae along with the disc and anterior longitudinal ligament can be palpated with deep palpation. Next, coming to the abdominal palpation. So abdomen anteriorly we have to palpate. So abdomen may also be carefully palpated for the symptoms of pain and muscle spasm arising from internal organs. So for example, the appendix is palpated in the right lower quadrant and the liver in the right upper quadrant. The kidneys are located in the left and right upper quadrants and the spleen is found in the left upper quadrant. So anteriorly we can palpate for the internal organs, because sometimes what happens is if there is any pathology in the internal organs, then it can also give rise to pain in the lumbar region. So many times it is noted that when the patient is having appendicitis or some of the internal organ pathologies, then the pain can also be radiated to the lumbar spine. That is why it is important to note whether the patient is having pathology in the internal organs or the patient is having pathology in the lumbar spine. Next, coming to the inguinal area. So the inguinal area is located between the ASIS and the pubic symphysis. So the examiner should carefully palpate the symptoms of a hernia, abscess, infection of the lymph node or any pathological condition in this area. So inguinal area can be palpated anteriorly. Next, coming to the iliac crest. So the examiner palpates the iliac crest from the ASIS moving posteriorly and looking for any symptoms. So in case of hip pointer or apophysitis, iliac crest palpation can be painful. So patient may have tenderness over the iliac crest. Next, symphysis pubis. So the symphysis pubis can be palpated by the examiner using both the thumbs. So we have to check whether the two pubic bones are level or not, and the symphysis pubis and the pubic bones may also be carefully palpated for any tenderness. So in case of osteitis pubis, this pubic bones will be tender. So standing at the patient side, the examiner pushes both the thumbs down onto the symphysis pubis so that the thumbs rest on the superior aspect of the pubic bone. In this way, one can ensure that the two pubic bones are level, and the symphysis pubic and the pubic bones may also be carefully palpated for any tenderness. Next, coming to the posterior aspect. So when we are palpating lumbar spine from the posterior aspect, we have to see that the patient is lying in the prone position. So for the anterior aspect, patient can be in supine position, and for the posterior aspect, the patient can be in the prone position. So coming to the palpation, here in this picture we can see different anatomical landmarks are seen in this picture. So we can see L1, L2, L3, L4 and L5. Iliac crest are visible in this picture. So these are the palpation, these are the anatomical landmarks that can be palpated. So this is again the picture, bony landmarks of the lumbar spine. We can see the facet joint, transverse process, spinous process, then L4, L5 joint interspace, iliac spine, iliac tubercle, posterior superior iliac spine, PSIS. We are palpating PSIS for most of the special test of the lumbar region, as well as many things can be palpated first after palpating the PSIS posteriorly. Then the coccyx, then the ischial tuberosity, greater trochanter and the shaft of the femur. So next, spinous process. So what we have to do, so the examiner first have to palpate a point in the midline, which is on the line joining the high point of the two iliac crest. So this point is the L4, L5 interspace, and after moving down to the first hard mass, the fingers will be resting on the spinous process of L5. Moving toward the head, the interspaces and the spinous processes of the remaining lumbar vertebra can be palpated. In addition to looking for tenderness, muscle spasm and other signs of pathology, the examiner should watch for signs of spondylolisthesis, which is most likely to occur at L4, L5 or L5S1 region. So visible or a palpable dip or a protrusion from one spinous process to another may be evident depending on the type of the spondylolisthesis present. So in addition, absence of a spinous process may also be seen in case of spina bifida. So if there is absence of a spinous process, then we can suspect spina bifida. So if the examiner moves laterally 2 to 3 cm from the spinous process, so the finger will be resting on the lumbar facet joint. So remember, you have to move laterally from the spinous process 2 to 3 cm away, then you can palpate for the facet joint, lumbar facet joint. This joint should be palpated for signs of any pathology, because the depth of these joints, the examiner may have difficulty palpating them. However, pathology in this area results in spasm of the overlying paraspinal muscles, which also can be palpated. So while we are palpating the lumbar spine posteriorly, we have to also palpate for the muscles, the paraspinal muscle. It can have spasm because of the pathology. So this is the picture, the thumb positioning of the therapist touching the spinous process, as we can see in this picture. So this will be the hand position, the patient position will be in the prone position, and therapist will be palpating the spinous process of the lumbar spine using the two thumbs. Next, again this is the picture. In right hand side picture, we can see the hand of the therapist palpating the actual body, and on the right hand side we can see a spinal model is present. So spine model is there, bone model, and on that the therapist is palpating the spinous process. So again, posteriorly, sacrum, sacral hiatus and the coccyx also can be palpated. So coccyx can be palpated from L5 downward. You have to palpate the sacral spinous process from L5 downwards, and then at last we can palpate for the coccyx. So we can also palpate the S2. S2 is the level, that is the line joining the two PSIs. So examiner returns to the spinous process of L5 and then moves caudally. The fingers will be resting on the sacrum, and like the lumbar spine, the sacrum has spinous processes, but they are much better, harder to distinguish because there are no interposing soft tissue spaces between them. The S2 spinous process at the level of the line joining the two PSIs, that is also the level of the posterior dimples. Moving distally, the examiner's fingers may palpate the sacral hiatus. So next, iliac crest, ischial tuberosity and sciatic nerve can be palpated. So beginning at the PSIs, the examiner moves along the iliac crest, palpating for the signs of pathology. Then moving slightly distally, the examiner palpates the gluteal muscles for spasm, tenderness or the presence of abnormal nodules. Just under the gluteal folds, the examiner should palpate the ischial tuberosities on both the sides for any abnormality. As the examiner moves laterally, the greater trochanter of the femur is palpated. It is often easier to palpate if the hip is flexed to 90 degree. So midway between the ischial tuberosity and the greater trochanter, the examiner may be able to palpate the path of the sciatic nerve. So the nerve itself is not usually palpable. Deep to the gluteal muscles, the piriformis muscle also should be palpated for potential pathology. This is in a line dividing the PSIS and the pelvis and the greater trochanter of the femur from the ASIS and the ischial tuberosity of the pelvis. So see, this is the picture showing the palpation of the coccyx. We can see in this picture sacrum, coccyx, ilium, greater trochanter, ischial tuberosity can be palpated. So reference for this video, I have taken the content from the book David Magee Orthopedic Physical Assessment. So thank you for watching this video. If you have enjoyed watching this video, then please subscribe to my channel. Share this channel with your friends. Press the bell icon to get notified for the next video. And I would still like to request all of my audience. 64% of my audience have yet not subscribed to my channel. So I request them to subscribe this channel. Thank you.